The chronological Bible reading for April 15th is Psalm 7 and 27, 31, 34, and 52. Psalm 7 is written by David during a time that he was apparently running for his life. And the introduction mentions Cush, a Benjamite. Saul was a Benjamite, and it's likely that Cush was one of Saul's followers, or maybe even a general in Saul's army, although he's not mentioned anywhere in the book of 1 Samuel. Yahweh, my God, I seek refuge in you. Save me from all my pursuers and rescue me, or they will tear me like a lion. Most of us will never know what it's like to be physically pursued by people who literally want to kill us. But if these words were David's heart cry in moments like that, in years like that of his own life, after he had been called by God, anointed king of Israel, while he's in the waiting between the fulfillment of the prophetic word and the realization of walking it out. How many years went by between the time that David was anointed king of Israel by Samuel until he actually took the throne? Isn't that an incredible test of character? If we are able to sing about God's righteousness and about his goodness, even while we're in a season that's potentially decades long between the prophecy and the fulfillment. Psalm 27 potentially was written by David during the time that he was hiding in the cave of Adullam while his parents were over in Moab staying with the king there. Saul was trying to kill David, and in the midst of that, David writes, I have asked one thing from Yahweh. It is what I desire, to dwell in the house of Yahweh all the days of my life, gazing on the beauty of Yahweh and seeking him in his temple. One thing I've asked, not to be king, not to have power, not for people to like me. Verse 10, even if my father and mother abandon me, Yahweh cares for me. How bad do things have to get for your father and your mother to abandon you? They were there. They witnessed him being anointed king of Israel. How bad must it have been for David's own parents to abandon him? And even if they abandoned him, all I ask, God, is that I can be in your presence, that I can be where you are. Nothing else matters. In verse 13, David writes, I am certain that I will see Yahweh's goodness in the land of the living. Wait for Yahweh. Be strong and let your heart be courageous. Wait for Yahweh. That word wait means be bound together the way strands are twisted together to become a cord or a rope. David is preaching to his soul, wait for Yahweh, be bound together, be gathered together with the God of creation, regardless of what is going on, regardless of all of the things that are trying to take my life, the things that are trying to cause me to be stirred up and not at peace, regardless of all of that stuff, I will command myself to be still and wait upon my God. Psalm 31 is a plea for protection. God, protect me. And even in the midst of that, he's also preaching to himself, commanding himself, reminding himself. Verse 14, but I trust in you, Yahweh. I say, you are my God. The course of my life is in your power. Rescue me from the power of my enemies and from my persecutors. Make your face shine on your servant. Save me by your faithful love. How great is your goodness. Blessed be Yahweh, for he has shown me his faithful love. Be strong and let your heart be courageous, all of you faithful ones who put your hope in Yahweh. Psalm 34 was written about the time when David pretended to be insane before the Philistine king. It's all about God's righteousness, God's protection. Psalm 52, David writes when he's thinking about the interactions between himself and Ahimelech and Doeg the Edomite, who went and told Saul about how David had gone to Ahimelech, and Ahimelech helped David. Ahimelech was the priest. Doeg went and told Saul. It resulted in Ahimelech being murdered by Doeg, as well as all of the other priests, and that entire village was massacred by this evil man. And David writes about this Doeg. How dare you live for riches? How dare you live in such a way that you deny the righteousness of God, that you act evilly? You will get what you deserve. And although he's calling it out, he doesn't rejoice in the end that is coming for Doeg. What he rejoices in is that he is not like Doeg. In the last two verses, but I am like a flourishing olive tree in the house of God. I trust in God's faithful love forever and ever. I will praise you forever for what you have done in the midst of your faithful people. I will put my hope in your name, for it is good. David's running for his life, living in a cave. He's just gotten news that the priest who helped him was massacred, as well as all of the other priests and people who live in that land. And in the midst of that horrible news, David says, I am like a flourishing tree that produces precious olive oil. A tree isn't moved. Its roots go deep. When the wind blows, it sways in the wind, but it's not moved. It provides shade and fruit, a place for the birds of the air to build their nests. A tree is precious. It is valuable. It's not easily replaced. Don't you love David's perspective in these Psalms today? How he is unmoved, regardless of his circumstances. Like the Apostle Paul, know what it's like to be rich, to be poor, to have plenty, to have nothing, to be healthy, to be sick, to be safe and secure, to be shipwrecked. In spite of all these things, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And the context of that was being content in every circumstance. David, 1,000 years before Paul, 3,000 years before us, models for us beautifully what it is like to be content in every circumstance. How can we possibly be content in every circumstance unless we experience every circumstance? And so we, like David, praise God in the good times and in the bad. May we bless his name forever. God bless you, my friends. Thank you for being on this journey with me through the word in 2024. We'll see you tomorrow.